Every idea is good on paper. This to me is the initial saying in production of any media. You can come up with an idea for a video game, movie, or book, but if you don't execute it very well, people are gonna notice and call you out for it. Enter Dingo Pictures, also known as Phoenix Games. If any of you follow Kadigarus, you might have heard this name get thrown around a lot, oftentimes negatively. Heck, the most viewed video on Kadigarus' channel involved this company. But guys, they're not as bad as you think.
What? What? What?
Shocker, I know. I'm probably the only person in the world right now that doesn't want to march up to Dingo Pictures' door with a torch and pitchfork and want to tear them a new one. Nor do watching any of their films actually wants me to throw myself off a cliff. Anyway, as crazy as that idea is, I'm going to be looking into 2 movies made by Dingo Pictures. Both 2D animated, and at least to me, the most infamous. Dalmatians 3 and Dinosaur Adventure. So consider this, in a way, a double feature. Here we go. Dalmatians 3 drops you into the movie right away. No intro or title card. Well, that's a good sign. We're soon introduced to our main cast. Charlie the cat, 2 Dalmatians named Sasha and Lucy, and a Cocker Spaniel named Pino. The first 3 minutes doesn't really show us plot all that much, if not mostly what the characters are about. Mainly, it's like this. Charlie pranks the 3 dogs with pepper on doggy treats, or doggy cake, as he puts it.
K1 doggy cake.
Gets it's a kind of brand. But they get even with Charlie by getting his nose stuck in a mousetrap. It seems harmless so far. But after this we get to the actual plot. Charlie comes by them and shows off his gingerbread heart he got, and Pino, Sasha, and Lucy decide to get one for their master as it was close to her birthday. But being dogs, they don't have any money, so they go for a much older tactic to just swap. Fair enough. Now, up to this point the plot seems a bit straightforward, but now it starts getting a little cobbled together. The dogs arrive in the market, and then...
Stop! Stop! Give that back immediately!
Okay, in hindsight, this is their fault. Why did they just jump up and grab one without telling her first? I ask this because they can actually talk to people in this universe, for only one scene. And Pino and Sasha get caught while Lucy manages to escape. It's probably good that this is the only human interaction we get, because these humans are very racist to dogs apparently. And I'm not gonna lie, this scene is a bit of a mess. So Lucy manages to get home, and with the help of Charlie, they get themselves a laptop from Charlie's master. How convenient. Which, after giving it a look, figure out at least 3 dog pounds in the area. And here I thought Felidae was the only movie with cats working on computers. And it might have been blunt, but it's nice to know Charlie isn't just gonna be a bully the whole time, and he agrees to help out. Good for him. Not long after this, we get the biggest and quickest dump of characters I've seen in a while. First there's the main antagonists of the movie, Castor and Pollux, which I swear I heard those names in a Hunger Games book. And it turns out that it's this point we're given a bit of a backstory. Turned out, their parents actually recognize many of the dogs in the pound. You better have a good memory, because this is probably the most characters I've seen introduced all at once, in the span of under 2 minutes. So, to make things easy, here's the list of names. There's Boss, Butch, Mr. Bloom, Trap, and Freddy of the Backstreet Gang, Krumi, and Two Fission, I think that's what they say. And they're looking for her siblings, Toby and Timmy. You got all that? I hope so, because they barely do much stuff in this film. Only a few of them are actually notable. The backstory goes on quite a bit, so I'm just gonna skim through it. Two Vision tries getting her siblings herself, but gets caught by Castor and Pollux. This news reaches the Backstreet Gang, and they eventually go in there, managing to get them free, and they leave Castor and Pollux stuck in a trapper's neck. However, after the flashback, they explain that the humans tried getting rid of their junkyard, but the dogs growled at them, which resulted in them getting stuck in the pound themselves. At least it's some explanation, and furthers the whole human racism I mentioned earlier. Side note, Krumel and Two Vision, along with Toby and Timmy, use the exact same designs as their children. If they didn't say them by name, I wouldn't know. Eventually, Charlie and Lucy find them in there, and in a very contrived and out-of-nowhere way, one of the dogs already has an answer for them. The dog, named Rick, has a cousin named Como outside of the pound, whose master is... oh boy.
Yes, my owner worked for the city in the building department, and he said that his building used to be a bunker, an old bunker with secret passages.
Secret passages? Are you sure?
Honestly, I don't know. But they tell their friends anyway, they go visit the house, and after a short explanation and without a hitch again, they find the plans in a garbage can. And after escaping the police, very quickly, again, they give the plans back to the pound. Mr. Bloom looks it over and discovers this.
Good work. Looks like we're in luck. The entrance to the secret passage is in this room, somewhere back there.
So they share this information, and after going through the market, again very easily, they end up finding the secret passageway. From there, it's basically the teams meet up, and in another contrived way, they all get gingerbread hearts, and the end. Sheesh! You know, up to the end of the backstory, the story flowed through just fine. But from there, it's contrivance after contrivance after contrivance, with all the answers just spoon-fed to them. And worse, there's no risk. All of their ideas go on without a problem, and what problems they do end up with are solved very, very quickly. It's hard to feel invested when there's no danger to any of them. Okay, up next is Dinosaur Adventure. Alright, so this story isn't as complicated in execution, so following it's a little easier. The story focuses more on just two dinos, Tio the Iguanodon, I presume, and Kree the Pterosaur. Kree is apparently a trickster and can always get out of trouble just because he can fly. However, Tio's dad decides that he's a bad influence on Tio and puts Tio into Oro's school. More on him in just a minute. But after a flying lesson that goes exactly how you expect, Tio and Kree are not allowed to meet anymore. Well, Tio did get a concussion, which they actually say, so yeah. By the way, this scene also introduces Peck, who rhymes for no reason.
With elegance, Tio invites the bride to dance. Shut up, Pico, you're a freak.
After a little, we see two more dinos. The old inventor Uro and Know-It-All Fra. Uro offers far more to the plot, thank goodness, and invented a record player that can sense Earth movement and warn them of a volcanic eruption. And wouldn't you know it, Jesus, you need to invent some oil, Doc. On this, the kids go and fetch their parents and... Wait, that's not her mother, is it? I have a few questions, which I don't know if I can ask. Keeping those thoughts out of my head, Oro tells everyone about the upcoming eruption, but no one believes him, and eventually they just forget about it. So, while Kree and Tio go and play with some crocodiles, you can guess what happens next. Why does every dinosaur movie involve a volcano? Now, from this point, the film actually gets pretty dark, more so than Dalmatians 3. They stay in the cave for a few more days until it was okay to breathe and come outside, finding everything gone. After realizing Oro's still alive, they go off searching for Teo's parents and run into... apes? I thought we were in the prehistoric times, but I guess this is a more of a Lost World kind of deal. Anywho, the Dinos stay with the apes, 3 aptly named Dragon, Kala, and Roger. They barely do a thing for this plot, by the way. They remain with the apes until Roger tells them one day that he almost got stepped on by a dinosaur, which makes the main trio leave to find them. When they do find the Dinos, though, Kree discovers the horrifying truth.
This boring, drawn-out stuff here, we don't want to eat that anyway.
Forget the boring stuff. We've got used to something better there.
Apparently someone's been taking tips from Ka-Zar. Oro tries talking them out of it, but again, they won't listen. But they do find Peek and Fra alright and not crazy. They sneak them out, and they do find the the kinda decent valley. Much better. And they find Teo's parents, and that's the end. So the story in Dinosaur Adventures is already better because it's not so contrived as the first one, and is actually a bit more bold in storytelling. Well, as bold as it's willing to get. With not as many characters too, there's not as much confusion in trying to explain everything. Okay, story out of the way, let's talk about everything else. Art style. Honestly, it's okay. Not extravagant, but they do keep each character with a completely different design, so there's no confusing one character for another. The only exception out of these two were the parent dogs from Dalmatians 3, like I've mentioned, but that's about it. Dinosaur Adventures gets an extra point because there's more creative liberty put into it. Kree looks pretty cool to me, for example. He's like Petrie mixed with Coco with fish fins. I've seen weirder things from Spore. The backgrounds are a bit decent too, all watercolor, with a good amount of detail put into each one. Next is animation. Yes, that exists. The movement of all the characters feels very stiff and somewhat slow, and they often keep the same kind of facial expressions throughout most of the situations, if not all of them. Mouth movement isn't really synced up to the voices at all, and it has an odd habit of making their heads vibrate a lot. I really don't know why. Voice acting. It has the same problem as Leo the Lion dub. Speech is alright, but quality isn't all that great. And given they have a very limited voice cast, that means the vocal range is very limited too. And growling... I mean, do I need to say it? And finally, music. It's nothing too special. Both films have the same soundtrack. One sounds like a merry-go-round. One sounds like a walk in the park. There's a chase sequence song that vibrates a lot. And there's this more ominous one from Dinosaur Adventures just after the volcanic eruption. They're not bad per se, but they're mainly generic in their own craft, made simply for the roles they play. So, as I said, any idea is good on paper, but execution is important. Looking past all the quality flaws of both these films, voice acting and animation specifically, the stories are both decent in their craft, and I guess you can get a laugh from their vocal quality in some parts. Do I recommend this? Well, if you're curious enough, go look it up. They're available for free somewhere, I'm sure. I'll see you all later. Neon out.